Hello everybody. Let's get a picture here. Okay, so now we're going to talk about what to expect your second year of being an owner operator. So, if you made it through your first professional sports, they often talk about year, and then your second year they have what they call a sophomore year. It's going to be things like players are going to start coming. You might have squeaked by your first year without too much difficulty, but it's unlikely you'll go 2 full years without significant. You may have gone through your rookie year without having been towed, but you know you're almost guaranteed to be towed by the end of your second year. So if you got by your rookie season without too much difficulty, what happens to a lot of guys is they get overconfident. They're like, "Oh, I just completed my first year of trucking. That was no sweat. That was great. Every year is going to be just like my first year." No, that's not how it works. You know, when you buy your truck, it had less miles. You had 400,000 miles on it if you bought it from Crete. Okay, chances are you'll get through that first year without too much difficulty. If you do, count your blessings. Not everybody does. It could give you a false sense of confidence. You're like, I got my rookie year on my belt. I know what I'm doing. This owner operator thing's not that hard. Okay, well, now your truck's got another 100,000 miles on it. And now you're approaching 600,000 miles. You know, now your overconfidence is going to bite you in the ass because now things are starting to break. That truck you thought that was a good truck, now you're going to go through this like disillusion. Now you're going to see the truck for what it really is, a used truck with 600,000 miles on it. And then you may have had $20,000 in your maintenance account. After one or two repairs, now you're down to 5,000. And you're gonna be like, man, this sucks. It took me all my rookie year to build up my money, and then my second year, truck started breaking down, took all my money. This is the sophomore slump. This is how it goes. So you can never get away from the fundamentals of being an owner operator. You can never really break the unwritten rules. And I did a video on unwritten rules. I'll briefly mention them again. Cash is king. Rule number one. Even in your sophomore year, you cannot get away from that. So if you think you saved up all the money you needed to in your first year, I'm sorry, you're going to need more money in your second year. You can't stop saving just because you're in your second year. You have to save money every year. Even if it's your 10th year, you're going to have to save money. The truck repairs never end. It becomes a routine business. So your maintenance count will go down, then you replenish it, it'll go down again, you replenish it. It's like this is becoming routine. You know, run, truck repair, save money, run, truck repair, save money, you know, over and over and over again, and if you hadn't been towed yet in your first year, you most definitely will be towed in your second year. You may even be towed twice in your second year. Don't be afraid of being towed. That tow truck driver is there to help you. Yeah, you're going to spend some money, but when it's 100 degrees outside and you don't have air conditioning, you're going to be happy to see that tow truck driver. Similarly, in the wintertime, if it's 0 degrees out, you have no heat, you're going to be happy to see that tow truck driver. So don't be afraid of the tow truck driver. He's there to help you. Now, he's not going to work for free, so you got to save your money and be ready to pay. And they'll ask you, before they even do anything with your truck, they'll ask for payment ahead of time, and that's to protect them. They want to make sure they're going to get paid. So, you gotta, appreciate the tow truck driver. He's there to help you. Um, it's not uncommon for towards the end of your sophomore year, to start thinking about your next truck. You're like, you've only had the truck for a year and a half, and you're already thinking about your next truck. It's like, yeah, this is how it goes. Some guys will trade their truck in at 600,000 miles. I sold my last truck at 620,000 miles. Uh, it's a good mileage range to get some value out of the truck at that point. Now you don't have to. A lot of guys don't. A lot of guys don't sell their truck at 600,000 miles. Some trade it in. See, well, if you trade it in at dealership, the dealer's not going to want your truck. In most cases, they're not going to want your truck if it has over 700,000 miles. So the lower the mileage, the more likely you get a trade-in value. But you gotta watch that, because you trade it in, you probably still owe on that truck. So whatever you get for a trade-in value, it has to at least cover what you owe. So you gotta think about that. You may be underwater, whereas you owe more on your truck than what it's actually worth. That's possible. And you know you think your second year is going to be as good as your first year, but your truck's got another 100,000 miles on it. You gotta adjust your expectations year over year over year. So the sophomore year is probably going to be more challenging than your rookie year. Your rookie year, you might have squeaked by without major truck repairs. Sophomore year, you're almost guaranteed to have them, almost guaranteed. And then you're going to have to start thinking about trading it in, or start saving your money for your second truck. Uh, you know, I was going to do another video for the third year, and I think we'll save what you can expect for the third year. But briefly, the warranty goes all the way up. If you get the Daimler extended warranty EM4, that goes up to 7 years, 750,000 miles. So at the end of your second year, that truck will be 6 years old with 600,000 miles on it. So you only have about one more year to go before that warranty expires. And I don't recommend keeping the truck beyond the warranty, because it will nickel dime you to death. I mean, you know, the wear and tear on that truck goes through the roof. At 700, 800,000 miles, you cannot keep it on the road. So at the end of 2 years, now you got to start thinking about your second truck. Do you want to keep the truck you have for another year, or you want to try to trade it in or sell it on your own? You know, um, Many guys think the value for the dollar is to hold on to it, and take it to the full 750,000 miles. I don't recommend going beyond that. It's not worth it. It really isn't. That truck needs to be recycled. You would be better off getting rid of it at 750,000 miles, even if you don't get anything for it, because the repairs are going to go way through the roof, and your savings will just take a hit like you wouldn't believe. So your second year, another thing with the sophomore slump is you start thinking about what you're going to do with this money, and maybe you had the discipline to not spend money during your rookie year, but now it's your second year, and you're itching to buy something, or you're itching to spend it on something. Um, that's not uncommon, so I would just, say be cautious. Even in your second year, be cautious. You maybe don't have to be as disciplined as your rookie year, but See, if you take on more debt, then you got to put that in a bigger picture of things. I will tell you from experience that the more you save your money every year, the more you save your money, the stronger you become. You know, you become almost invincible if you got enough money. But if you start spending it, you're not going to get stronger. You may get weaker. That would be the sophomore slump. See, if you did good and you saved your money your rookie year, then you come into your second year and you're like, okay, I'm going to start spending some of this money. I'm going to go pay things off. You're gonna drop 20 grand, pay something off. Well, you would be stronger if you saved that 20 grand. Your business would be stronger if you saved that 20 grand. Yeah, it'd be nice to pay off, some of these debts, but what I'm suggesting, you give that a lot of thought. You give that a lot of thought because your second year, you're going to have more breakdowns than you did your first year. And your third year, you're going to have more breakdowns than you did your second year. See, the older that truck gets, the more it's going to break down, the more it's going to cost you. So here you are overconfident from a good rookie year, and now you're ready to spend money in your sophomore year. You could be, you know, just spinning your wheels, not making progress in your business. Because ideally, in the ideal situation, you would continue to save your money. So if you save 20 grand for maintenance in your first year, can you save another 20 grand in your second year? You know, can you do that? I mean, that would be great if you could. I one of the things I tried to do early on was reach 50,000. And once I had $50,000 available to me, then I felt pretty strong. I was like, I kind of felt like I was on easy street. I'm like, okay, now I can handle just on anything. I mean, if I have to, I'll go buy another truck if I got 50 grand to work with. And the second year, you might be able to achieve $50,000 in savings. That would make you very, very strong. But if you take that money and you pay off debts or you make another purchase, you're not going to have that 50 grand. You'll still be at 20 grand. And now the truck repairs are going to hit. You know, they may not have hit the rookie year. The second year they're going to start hitting. And you may be overconfident, and that could hurt you. you know, you could have your second year could be worse than your first year. Your first year you were disciplined. Your second year you became overconfident, and it's the second year that the truck starts breaking down. So this is something you got to keep in mind. Another 100,000 miles on that truck means more repairs on that truck. You're not going to see it till your second year. If you don't maintain the discipline of saving from your first year, you could have somewhat of a performance, uh, lower performance in your second year. Because you took your foot off the gas for saving. You let up on the saving, or you started spending, and as a result, it's going to become more difficult. You could probably get by, but you're going to struggle your sophomore year. This is also part of the skill development, managing your money, because now you're going to realize after 2 years of being an owner operator that you can never really stop saving money. You know, you think you got enough money, and you realize that by the end of 2 years, you got to start saving money for a down payment on your third truck or your second truck. So you're always going to be having to save money, always. You know, Ideally, in the next few years to several years, you'll get your savings up to $100,000. This is going to be critical for your long-term success. Charlie Munger said the first $100,000 is the hardest to make. You got to get your hands on $100,000. And after that, it gets easier. So at your second year, you're not at $100,000. You'd be lucky to get to $50,000. You may not get to $100,000 your third year either, because now you got to make another down payment on a truck. You know, I would think probably you're getting closer at 5 years. It may take more than 5 years to save 100,000. And this isn't a grand total of 100,000. This is $100,000 invested in an investment portfolio. So in addition to that, you're going to need, your checking account, your savings account, your maintenance account. You may need an extra 25,000, outside of your investment portfolio to run your operation. So you come in your second year, don't start spending money like crazy, because you're not there yet. You're still in the woods. It's not safe for you to go out there and make big purchases or start paying things off. Now, the second year, you're probably going to get some of the most significant owner operator experience, and that's with breakdowns. And you don't want to take your foot off the gas when you're saving, because you're going to have more than one breakdown your second year. And your maintenance account's going to take a hit. You're going to have to replenish it. So keep this in mind that a lot of owner operators have a sophomore slump. After that, they realize that they have to get good at managing money and they have to save their money. Saving money never stops for an owner operator. It becomes it becomes part of your business strategy to save money. You know, you want to reach $100,000 invested. The only way you're going to get there is save your money every year. You know, you're not out of the woods until you got 50,000 available to you. You're not achieving one of the keys to success until you've got invested 100,000. So don't think because you're in your second year, all of a sudden you can start spending money. That'd be a big mistake. Big. That could set you back. You don't want to take a step backwards. So keep this in mind. Sophomore slump is very real. All that discipline you developed in your rookie year, you need to carry it over in your sophomore year as well. All right, guys. So for you. So watching. We'll see you on